Good morning. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I'm Pastor Mark Baze. I hope you had a good, restful weekend, and we had a lot happen over the weekend, and I want to discuss all of that with you. We're going to hit on some political stuff, a presidential race. We're going to talk about some disturbing revelation that we have found out about some of our big corporations. Surprise, surprise. And we're also going to talk about some theology, as always. And I am so thankful for you to be joining us as you help me do that, defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. Now, let's talk about the campaign speech that Donald Trump gave. It's a classic case of, Trump will say a lot of things, and that's kind of what he's known for. He's a guy who says a lot of stuff. And some of the stuff he said in his campaign was right on the money. He talked about the issue with the border. He talked about China wanting to ship in vehicles, car manufacturing from Mexico, manufacturing facilities that they are putting up there, which is obviously going to undercut our auto industry, fill in the blank. And he used some terms in regards to that the media decided to twist. I'm going to talk about why I don't think it's going to make a whole lot of headway, and it's not going to work out very well for the mainstream media. So Donald Trump talked about the matter of China wanting to implement manufacturing, which I guess they already are, in Mexico and then ship those cars across the border and basically, obviously, sell them for much cheaper, wrecking the American auto industry. Well, Trump used a phrase that if Biden is elected, then it would be a bloodbath. Now, he used that term, and the context, if you watch the whole video, it was in regards to right after he mentioned the issue of China, manufacturing, and the border. Well, if you look up bloodbath, it absolutely can be used in the term that the media is wanting to spin it as, Trump is threatening civil war, fill in the blank. However, Trump is a business guy. And we always forget about that he's actually a very savvy businessman. And there's terminology that in the business world they use all the time. And bloodbath is one of those, referring to whenever markets are crashing and industry's failing. It's a bloodbath. So he used that terminology in that context. Of course, the media, they are going to pick up on that, and they're going to just say, Trump warns of a bloodbath, threatens a bloodbath if Biden is reelected, which he did, but he was talking about a manufacturing facility or manufacturing matter that's going to destroy American jobs, destroy American economy. Now, I will say that if Biden is reelected, I think it is very possible there will be a bloodbath because we continue to allow military-age males coming across our southern border. We're not doing anything about crime, and we have Americans being killed in the streets right now. It already is a bloodbath. So they're right on both accounts. I don't think this charge is going to help Trump. I don't think that it's going to make an impact because they always do this. Trump will say something and then they will take him out of context. They'll use a key word and they will say it over and over again, trying to get it to pick up steam. It's no different than whenever they accused Trump of saying that the white supremacists and neo-Nazis at Charlottesville were good people. That is not what he said. They took it all out of context. You can just look at time and time again when Trump said something and they take a word out of context and they run with it. And the reason why I say I don't think this attempt is going to work either is because they've been doing it all these years, since 2016, and Trump is right now leading Biden in all the presidential polls. It's really the idea of the definition of insanity, as you so often hear it put, where you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. That's what they do. They try the same attack. They try the same approach over and over and over again, and it doesn't seem to be doing any good. The only thing that Trump did that may have hurt him, but not with the Democrats, is really he just hurt himself with Republicans, is he did kind of take the opportunity to gloat a little bit of a victor's speech. And he talked about his opponents and how they weren't very good. The issue was, yeah, we get it. Chris Christie was no good. Nikki Haley was no good. But we kind of like DeSantis and Vivek, though they're fine. And really, we kind of see them as the future. Whenever Trump steps down, they're going to take up the reins. So Trump did kind of say a few things that were not very kind to them. Like I said, Trump is going to do what Trump's going to do. Trump says a lot of things, and we just realize that. One of the things that I think Democrats and some independents don't understand is, and I'm technically registered independent, is people who support Trump, whether you're what political party you're in, non-affiliated, fill in the blank, people that support Trump don't do so because they think he's the best thing that's ever come along and they agree with everything that he does. The people that support Trump really support him in spite of all of his sayings and the things that he does. Now, we enjoy a good funny tweet sometimes, and we like some of the things he says, but it's not like every time he opens his mouth we think this is just absolute poetry and perfect articulation of everything that we would want a statesman to be exemplifying. That's not the case. We take the good, and then whenever he says something bad, we say, yep, that's Trump. And so I don't think that a whole lot's going to change. This speech is not going to do it. And like I said, right now I don't know what will, which kind of makes me nervous. Because what is it going to take? Because you know the media, you know the opposing party, you know that those that do not want to see Trump win are going to do whatever it takes to prevent him from being in the White House for another 4 years. The question is, what are they going to do? What story are they going to stir up? What controversy are they going to get going? What potential scandals, schemes could be going on? They're going to have to reach into their bag, and every time their old tactics, their old tricks don't work, it just makes you wonder how desperate are they and what are they going to do. Therefore, keep an eye on that. It'll be interesting to see how things progress and how things go. Now, let's talk about some other news. Billy Cook. Does anybody know who Billy Cook is? Some of you Okies, maybe you Texans may know who Billy Cook is. Billy Cook, even to this day, from what I understand, is a saddle maker, and he owns a saddle making company. And Billy Cook was really big back in the day. He was out of Sulphur Springs, Texas, I believe, somewhere in the northern part of Texas. And he had quite a successful saddle making company going on. Well, he has restarted his company, from what I understand. It is back to making saddles, but he was shut down for a while because he was caught hiring illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. And they were obviously not contributing to the tax system as they were supposed to, and so he was shut down with all the illegalities concerning that, and lost a lot of his business, and he's gotten started back up. Well, we all know that this is what a lot of companies do. They hire illegal aliens. They just keep it really hush-hush. Well, Tyson, yes, Tyson Chicken in New York said that they openly admitted to hiring illegal aliens, and they don't face any consequences or ramifications for it. So I think that Tyson owes Billy Cook, I think the federal government owes Billy Cook an apology because they shut him down over something that Tyson is openly admitting. And I will just say it right now, this exploitation of illegal aliens is nothing more than modern day slavery. We're using people from another nation for cheap labor. We exploit them. They are content with just the most basics of resources, of funds, and they are threatened continually that if they don't get in line, then we will bring the government, the law down upon them. This is nothing more than just cheap labor slavery. It really is. So Tyson, why do they get special treatment? Well, it's because they're a big corporation. I'm sure that there's a lot of hands in the pot that benefit from Tyson. And nowadays, in today's time, as long as you are not a conservative, I would assume, at least traditional type company, such as a saddle maker, I don't know anything about Billy Cook and his politics, but my point is, you're a big corporation, it doesn't matter. If you are committing crimes that align with the ideology of the powers that be, you will face no consequences. This is why we do not take the justice system seriously. To us, the justice system really is nothing more than just, it's a joke. We don't take the judges seriously that prosecute these people or that overlook these crimes, and we don't trust our institutions, our FBI, the ATF. None of these things are reliable. So therefore, we live in a time in which we understand that the justice system is not actually the justice system. It is merely an attack dog used by the deep state bureaucrats. and that's really the truth of it. So we don't take you seriously. You have lost all credibility, just as how our health organizations have lost so much credibility. So have the justice system. It really is a joke. So they're going to target who they want to target. They're going to go after who they want to go after. And if you're somebody who is a little bit too conservative and you don't walk the line exactly like they want you to, well, then you need to be very careful. Make sure that you're keeping good of your records, your taxes, and fill in the blank, because you've got a target on your back. And I think that's just the way it is. And it's amazing to me how whenever you see the media and others talk, they are so scared that Trump will get in the White House and then weaponize the DOJ. Really, because nobody has been weaponizing the DOJ to go after their opponents at all in recent years. It is all such a silly joke, and you and I all know better. Don't be fooled. So, Billy Cook, I'm not saying that I support Billy Cook using illegal aliens. We need to stop doing that. It hinders our tax system. It takes jobs from Americans, and there's a better way. So I'm not condoning Billy Cook's hiring of illegal aliens. That was wrong too. But I'm saying there's a double standard. If you are Tyson, you get a free pass. If you're a Texas saddle maker, then you get shut down. So I think you can see the injustice there. Maybe we should be calling it the DOI, the Department of Injustice. Here's another thing that let's talk about. There is a term that is being coined now, and I'm excited about this. And you may think, where does this have to do with stuff? Well, it does. So in years past, when it comes to small arms manufacturers, equipment, logistics, communications even, the military has made up the bulk of those sales, whether it's for guns, whether it is for body armor, whether it is for radios, fill in the blank. What is amazing is, in this year of 2024, the military is not the primary buyer of this equipment. Guess who it is? It is citizens. And what we have started to see is the coining of a new term called the citizens defense industry. And I think this is excellent and amazing. We need to stop centralizing everything. We need to decentralize our government, obviously. We need our local government to become much more relevant, much more in the frame of how the founders intended it, the framers of the Constitution, which our elites don't even know what that means. We need to decentralize our defense, and we need to decentralize theology. I am all for decentralizing these things. And in the case of the citizens defense industry, what we have done is we have said that the local communities, fathers, brothers, sons, husbands, fill in the blank, and men, I am putting the obligation on you. Call me sexist if you want, but men, it is your job to protect. And it's the woman's job to nurture, plain and simple. So we have the ability and the responsibility given by God, I would argue, that transcends any commands the government gives us, to be the protectors. And therefore, we are much better off with the local community of men getting the equipment, getting the tools that they need to ensure that if a crisis came, they would be equipped, prepared, and ready to defend and protect the homeland. Plain and simple. The citizens defense industry. Much like how, the militia was in the days leading up to the Revolutionary War. So, this is big. Now, these big firearm manufacturers, equipment, fill in the blank, even things like night vision, thermal, citizens are taking over that, being the main buyers. And guess what? Whenever citizens are the primary buyers giving them the money, they want to cater to us. This is a very, very good thing. We are much better at protecting ourselves than the government is. Once again, if you're at home, we've used this example so many times. If you're at home, somebody breaks in, it could take upwards of an hour for the police to respond, whereas a good man with a good gun can respond in seconds. This is just common sense. And the reliance upon the government to handle all these problems just shows you that when it comes to a national standing army to fight another nation, sure, obviously that is something that countries need to do. They need to have the means of that, and the American military is second to none, at least maybe for right now. I don't know how much longer that's going to last, as long as we're more worried about DEI as opposed to training warriors. But when it comes to protecting the homeland, and I don't know, maybe deterring somebody from attempting to invade the United States, knowing that every single father and man is trained with a gun, and he has equipment that is even better than the military's. Don't call my gun military grade. My rifle is way better than military grade. It's way more accurate. It's equipped with much better optics. Don't insult me in that way. So the citizens' defense industry is the decentralization of national security, and it's the people taking upon that responsibility themselves. This is a very, very good thing, and I want you to continue to follow this. I'm going to continue to update you on that. And as we continue to do so, guess what? All of the cool toys that the military exclusively got to use, we will get to start having more access to those things. Higher quality radios, higher quality drones, higher quality fill in the blank, weapons even. There are some gun companies, SIG is a big one, that, with exception of fully automatic, thank you Ronald Reagan, as much as I hate to say it, he allowed that ban to take place. We are pretty much able to use the same weapons that the military uses. And as a matter of fact, fully auto is not near as effective as you would think in a lot of situations. So this is a very good thing. We need to keep this up. We need to take more responsibility back up on ourselves. And we don't need to want to give the government the responsibility of protecting us. We need to take that upon our own shoulders. Now, in the case of decentralizing things, we need to decentralize theology. For too long, pastors, Bible believers, fill in the blank, we have taken the responsibility of studying the Bible off of ourselves, and we've given it to who? We've given it to the seminaries, we've given it to the big-time pastors, we've given it to the publishing companies, and we let them write our curriculum, we let them write our material, our educational textbooks, our commentaries, fill in the blank, and we have let them decide our theology for us. Well, this centralization of theology, the big denominations, the big box seminaries, fill in the blank, they all sit inside an echo chamber, they all affirm each other, they never think outside of their own assumptions, their own opinions, fill in the blank, and we just get the same old theology regurgitated year after year after year after year. And that wasn't the way it should have been. We need to be building upon the work of previous generations. I've said this before. I look back at a lot of those men who stood for the inerrancy of the Bible, defended the truth of Scripture, defended grace. And even though I wouldn't agree with them entirely on a lot of their teaching, I can still take what they did and build off of that. And even B.H. Carroll, the founder of Dallas Theological Seminary, or not Dallas, the founder of Southwestern Theological Seminary. I still have a lot of respect for him and a lot of the things he taught. I disagree with him on a number of matters, but I can still look at the things he did and realize there were a lot of good things. Let us continue on. So because we stopped having individual pastors, I think that once upon a time you could have gone to a church and the pastor there was a student of the Bible. He was in a sense, a theologian, a scholar himself. So you had scholars, theologians all throughout the country. But all of a sudden, whenever commentaries became popular and Sunday school curriculum, fill in the blank, we stopped thinking for ourselves and we allowed the publishing companies, the seminaries to do the thinking for us. And you dare not question, you dare not get out of line, you dare not go against the teaching of the accepted orthodoxy, so-called, of the theological elites. Nowadays, however, I would argue that we are starting to see, once again, I'm hoping, a decentralization of theology, where individual pastors are taking it upon themselves, and we are having confidence in letting men, whatever level of training they may have, maybe they've gone to seminary, maybe they haven't. Honestly, nowadays, not going to seminary is a good thing, and I say that as a seminary student working on his Master's of Divinity. I'm about halfway there with languages. But we're starting to see this revival, I'm hoping, of small churches, even home churches, and they're taking it upon themselves. They're not just trusting the ideology, the opinions, the assumptions of those baseline, standard, what you have to follow guidelines by the big box publishing companies, denominations, fill in the blank. They are taking the Bible and they are studying it diligently, studying to show themselves approved. And we're starting to see that, and I want to see a whole lot more of it. I do not care, once again, what so-and-so said. Whether that's Spurgeon, whether that was Augustine, whether it was Martin Luther, John Calvin, I do not care. I care about what the Word of God says. I may read what some of those men were teaching to get an idea of what people believed in that day, and maybe I'll come across something they say and I'll think, yes, that is fine, that's accurate. But we have allowed the centralization of theology to give so much incorrect Bible teaching. I think a good example of this would be the parables of Jesus. If you go to churches and you ask them what were the purpose of Jesus' parables, and you even ask the pastors, they will say that parables were a teaching aid where Jesus, in His infinite wisdom, was able to take complex spiritual matters concerning salvation and the kingdom that is already not yet, and all of this, and help people understand. And that is how you hear so many pastors teach it, because that is what the commentaries said, and that's what the echo chambers and the seminaries and theological circles have repeated amongst themselves over and over and over again, to where now we have so many churches, the majority even, I would say, that do not understand what the purpose of the parables of Jesus were. For one, we think that Jesus was talking about us, yet Jesus hadn't gone to the cross, died, been resurrected, the mystery hadn't yet been revealed. So our salvation wasn't even on the table. So we're going to try to take parables, first of all, and make those about our salvation. We're just asking for trouble. Furthermore, we're misunderstanding what the parables were to be used for anyways. Consider the words here in verse 3. And he spake many things unto them in parables, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow, and when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places where they had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up because they had no deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. And he goes on and talks about the rest of this parable. And the disciples asked Jesus, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? Well, verse 11, if we would take the standard teaching of most pastors and theological students fill in the blank, we would think, well, I'm using parables to help them understand. But that's not why Jesus taught in parables. Look, here's the context. He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. We'll pause there for a minute. Wait a minute. He spoke in parables because for them it was not given to them to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. Now, the mysteries, not in the sense of our mystery today, but the mysteries concerning the kingdom for the Jewish people, the future physical kingdom. And then every single amillennialist shrieked. But the reason why Jesus spoke in parables is because that multitude, the audiences that he taught parables to, they were not to know. Now, the Calvinists will say because they were not elect, because Christ did not love them, He hated them and loved the disciples, therefore Jesus revealed the mysteries, the meaning of the parables. But even the Calvinists will probably get the parables wrong. They won't understand that, no, the parables were not spoken to help as a teaching tool. He spoke in parables out of a sense of really a punishment for not believing on Him, not actually being obedient to God, truly repenting, trusting in Him, doing what was required of them. Once again, this is not in the context of our salvation, but the Jewish people and their obligations. So, we read verse 12, For whosoever hath, to him shall be given. You have been given the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, so you will receive the kingdom of heaven. And he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, so these people who have not received the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, all the more shall be taken away. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And this is all prophetic right here in verse 14. And in them is fulfilled the prophecies of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing. And their eyes have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. So these people that Jesus was talking about, and who are these people? It's not everybody, the lost people, everyone today. No, not at all. It was very much that particular multitude, the people that Jesus was addressing at the seaside in Matthew chapter 13. Therefore, we do not take this and make a doctrine about salvation, saying that, oh, every single person that's lost, their hearts are waxed gross and their eyes are closed. They're not going to hear. They're not going to listen. Therefore, God reveals Himself mysteriously to them in a way that they won't understand. What are we doing? We're not supposed to take the Bible and do eisegesis. Eisegesis is just reading yourself into every passage. Let the Scripture say what it says. This multitude, there's no reason for us to assume that this was a mix of all people. And Jesus isn't even talking about the salvation by grace through faith because he hasn't gone to the cross yet. These things haven't occurred. Therefore, what is he talking about? He said so. This parable is concerning the kingdom of heaven. Verse 16, but the disciples did listen to Jesus. They truly repented. They truly believed that he was sent by God. Maybe they hadn't fully realized he was the Messiah yet. Still waiting, still hoping. We don't have the confession yet until Matthew chapter 16. But he says here, but blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them. So he then goes and explains the parable of the sower. Why did he explain the parable to them and not to the audience? Once again, this would completely go against the traditional teachings of why Jesus used parables. If Jesus used parables as a teaching tool to help people understand complex things, then why did he not explain the meaning of the parable to the multitudes for them to be able to understand? It's because their eyes and ears were already closed. They were not there to truly listen to what Jesus had to say. They were there to see a miracle. They wanted a free meal. They wanted a show. It was nothing more than that. We even saw in John's gospel talking about the multitudes leaving Jesus because at the end of the day, they did not really want what he had to say. They just wanted to be blessed by him and receive, added bonuses. Now, in verse 17, Jesus said, the prophets spoke about these things, and to you, you're actually finally getting to hear them. And because the disciples, not because they were divinely elect by God before the foundation of the world as individuals, no, they just simply trusted in what Jesus had to say. Calvinists, you need to work on this. Don't read yourself into every single passage. That's why you have a lot of confusion. And then Jesus goes on and explains the parable of the sower. And I think that if we look at the parable of the sower and realize the context behind it, it becomes a lot easier for us to understand, and it's way less confusing. I think the parable of the sower has caused so much unneeded worry and confusion on people because of the fact that they are trying to make this parable about our salvation, operating under the assumption that Jesus was talking about us. In reality, this parable was not to be for us. It was concerning the kingdom of heaven. Let's look at what Jesus has to say and ask ourselves, does this actually line up with our gospel? Or is this much more in the context of the kingdom offer? As we go and we look at this parable here, he says, hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. When one heareth the word of the kingdom, once again, if we're careful and we don't make the word of the kingdom, I'm still learning how to try to highlight those words. I need to ask Nathan. I know how to highlight them individually. So there you go. I went through the trouble of highlighting it. So when anyone heareth the word of the kingdom, we need to stop making our salvation about the kingdom promise, because once again, if you do that, you are making so much about the Old Testament figurative, because the vast majority of the Old Testament is about when the kingdom finally comes. The Son of David, the Messiah, reigns on earth. By making the kingdom figurative, and I know that you're going to proof text for those who hold to a figurative kingdom, but it's not going to hold water. The kingdom is a future physical thing. What Jesus is talking about here is a future physical kingdom. And therefore, if we take the parable and just allow it to be in its context, this parable is going to make a lot more sense. It's going to give you a lot more security in your salvation, and it's not going to make you be in fear of somehow the grace of God being removed from you. So if we go on, the word of the kingdom and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one. Now the wicked one, this could be a number of things here. We don't actually have the word Satan, paneros, hurtful. I think that we could argue instead of this being Satan, this is more of possibly the Pharisees and Sadducees. Maybe we could argue Satan fits into this as well. But the Pharisees and Sadducees, certainly they were wicked. They were not practicing what they were preaching. They were causing a lot of confusion. They were telling people that Jesus wasn't sent by God. They were denying his authority, even denying that he was the Messiah, all of these things. Therefore, if we try to make this about our salvation, we make it sound like, okay, a person hears the gospel and they don't quite understand it, and then Satan comes along and takes it from them. So it's almost as if Satan is coming along and preventing people from being saved. And I think a lot of people may have that mentality. The only reason why somebody's not saved is because Satan keeps taking it from them. And that's just simply not correct. So it says, and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. But what is being sown? The word of the kingdom, the offer of the kingdom. That is what we're seeing here. This is he which has received the seed by the wayside. But he that received the seed in stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it. So this is a person who hears about the kingdom and is excited, has joy in it. And so often, what does our centralized theological elites do? They say, this is somebody who hears the gospel and they're gung-ho about it at first and they're excited. Verse 21, yet hath he no root in himself, but dureth for a while. And when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. This would be somebody that we would say the standard theological view, the centralized view, is this is somebody who has some excitement at first, but it's not genuine faith. They just simply kind of got caught up in the moment, and then whenever time came, trials came, tribulation came, they lost confidence, they weren't obedient, they ended up giving up, whatever the case may be. And so that's what we do. So now we make this almost as if, yeah, you could have some faith, or at least it seems like faith, but it wasn't real faith. And then we have preachers coin a term called saving faith. Saving faith is not a biblical term. There is just simply faith. Faith in what Christ has done. So we create these words, we create these theologies, we create these doctrines, and once again, think about all the confusion that it causes. It's a very, very big problem. It's an issue that we've got to address. We've got to get corrected. Here's another one. Verse 22. He also that receives seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, choke the word and becometh unfruitful. And think about this matter. He that received the seed among the thorns and heareth the word. So this is somebody, once again, the standard theology view is this is our salvation. So they hear it, they receive it, and yet they have cares of this world. What does that mean? I think there's been a lot of Christians that have questioned, doubted their salvation because they read that passage and they think, well, cares of this world, well, I am saved and I want to go to heaven one day, but I want to accomplish some things. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I want to have grandkids. I want to do these things in life. So am I worried about the cares of this world? I would like to make some money so I can support my family, pay off some bills, fill in the blank. So I'm unfruitful now. Does that mean I'm not saved anymore because I want to have a life and do some things? See all the confusion that this causes? In reality, this is in the context of somebody in the kingdom offer. Just like verse 21, when tribulation and persecution ariseth, this is somebody who didn't endure to the end, that their faith was tried and they ended up giving up. Maybe they took the mark of the beast. This is all in frame of the tribulation to come. Verse 23, he that receives the word and understands it, or verse 22, I mean, the cares of the world, the deceitfulness of riches, well, they're not willing to give up everything they have. They take the mark of the beast so they can buy and sell. They like the material things of this world. Therefore, they become unfruitful. They don't enter into the kingdom. But verse 23, that is somebody who not only hears the word and receives it, but they endure to the end. They're obedient to the very end. They bring forth fruit. Jesus said that not everyone who says unto me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Once again, we make the kingdom of heaven out to be going to heaven. No, the kingdom that is going to be from heaven, established by God himself. So these parables help us to understand these things, but our centralization of theology, the elites all say the same thing. And really the parables of Jesus, this would be true for Catholics, Calvinists, standard evangelicals, you fill in the blank. They're all going to say the parables were a teaching tool and they're about us. It's not true on either one of those accounts. The parables were really a punishment for not being obedient and a rejection of Christ. And the parables are about the kingdom for the nation of Israel, not for us. This helps us understand and make so much more sense of all of these very important matters. Okay, I've been talking for a minute. I'm going to give my voice a rest. I'm going to enjoy my coffee, but before that I do that, I'm going to say hi to those who are joining us today all over the world. We have people that are from all sorts of states, all sorts of countries. So excited and glad to have each and every one of them. So let me get my coffee, and I'll read some of your comments. Susan, great to have you on. Good morning. Myra, glad to have you. Trent preached yesterday. I haven't got to watch it yet, Trent. I'll get caught up. I tuned in for just a minute, but then I had to, take care of half the population of Oklahoma. Nancy, good morning. Great to have you. Carol, so glad to have you. Carol, we got your letter. Thank you so much. Carol wrote a letter to us, and just so thankful for that. That is the best kind of encouragement that is possible. I haven't read it yet, but I already know what it is, and so thank you so much. It was on my desk, and I was running behind, but thank you so much, Carol. Trent, I already said hi to Trent. We got Rich on. Rich, good to see you. I didn't see you some last week, so I was wondering how you were doing. I figured you were traveling, being busy. Yeah, Rich said, good job, Trent. Trent also said, Trump does Trump things. It's the Trump way. Yeah, Trump is going to Trump, and that's what he does. That's just how he operates. Toby, great to see you. Toby, have you heard of the Billy Cook saddles? We got 1984 on, trying to listen in one ear this morning and answer the phone the other. I have two custom Billy. Okay, yeah, so 1984's heard of him, right? Yeah, so Billy Cook, his business got axed for it, but Tyson, hey, it's just fine. All good for you, Tyson. What if everyone votes for RFK Jr.? He's better than Biden. It's not... I'm not as confident in him. Scott, good to have you on today. Appreciate you. Kristen, good morning. I hope you're feeling better, Kristen. Susan says, you think Jesus spoke in parables so that those who wanted him put to death would not understand. It was not yet his time. That's possibly another reason. I think that he gives a very straight reason in the context of Matthew 13. But I think that's a possible another reason. Jay, we got Jay on from Lilywop, Washington. Thank you. I haven't seen Davey yet today. Normally Davey is our Ireland watcher. And Carol, I love you too. Thank you so much. Well, once again, I've got a little bit extra time with you. There is a theology question that I'm going to get to. Davey submitted it. I'm going to answer it tomorrow. So Davey, if you're watching, I'm going to get to that question tomorrow. But I spent quite a bit of time on the parables matter. So I'm going to give you all just a minute. Feel free to submit your questions, your comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Did you get to watch any of the sermon yesterday? I know we had a little bit of glitching, a little bit of pausing. We're working on it. We've got work to do, but I am not one to slow down. We are going to only keep getting bigger and better. Hey, we got Ken on. Good morning, Ken. The benefit of having Ken on is Ken always gives me the updates. He lets me know. He says he gives me all sorts of feedback, so I appreciate that. Toby, do you have a Billy Cook saddle? I think just about everybody in Oklahoma probably has a Billy Cook saddle. 1984, if you're still listening, did he make them out of Sulphur Springs, Texas? I think that's where he made them. They're good saddles. I've got one. It's a roping saddle. And I need to ride my horse. I haven't rode in a while. But it's tough whenever he's over at my parents' house, which is about an hour and 20 minutes away. Still working on updating the website. I'm getting there. I'm starting to figure out what I want to do. It may not be exactly the way that it ain't exactly the way that I'm going to want it probably, but I'm getting a solution to where I'll have all my sermon notes. I know I'm getting behind, but it's a good problem. It's a good problem to have that I've been doing this enough to where I have a decent catalog of material for you to where I'm starting to exceed the limitations of it. So, Carol, thank you so much for the encouragement. I appreciate it. Rich said, have you seen the commercial for the movie Civil War? So, I've seen the first one. I think they came out with another. You know, it's one of those things that it's going to be pretty pretty politically correct. It's going to be woke. The way like the journalist, the girl journalist, is looking like the main character. You got soldiers with painted fingernails and whatever. Now the weird thing is to me is in the commercial, the preview, the trailer, they make it look like Texas and California formed an alliance. Which in what world would those two states team up? So now I will say this. There are a lot of do you know the state with the most conservatives? The largest number of conservatives? California. It is because it's that heavily populated. There are more conservatives in California than there are in any other state. So I don't know what scenario those two would team up. You know, I looked at some of the equipment. Rich, I know that you know all this stuff. Looking at some of like the plate carriers they wore and some of the firearms they used. I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to kind of be a typical Hollywood movie. I don't have high hopes. And I kind of wish they'd went more serious about it. It seems like they're creating a weird hypothetical scenario. So it doesn't look like it's going to be, and I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like a civil war that we would actually picture. It seems like they've kind of created some hypothetical alternative state situations, government situations in which you've got all these interesting, strange alliances. And I don't know. Rich, what are your thoughts? If you can type them all into one comment section. And so, I don't know, maybe interesting to watch. It's hard for me to watch war movies and gun movies because you're going to see them do things with weapons. And like, for example, they'll have a pistol and they'll shoot that pistol 50 times before they have to reload. And that's always, so annoying to me. Like Glock 19 only holds 15, 17 rounds unless you use like an extended mag. You can't just shoot it over and over again. Or they'll have like their optics mounted wrong, or they'll be running something weird on their gun that doesn't make any sense. My wife does not enjoy watching things with me. Like you'll see somebody like go through a house and they'll like be holding their pistol like this, like holding their hand on the bottom of it, and they'll be going around the house, looking like they're sweeping it. And I just tell Mary, I'm like, that's not how you do it. That just looks silly. I'm not a CQB expert like somebody I know that's in the comment section. But even I, can tell some of those things. It's always so silly to watch. My wife does the same thing, though. Like if we're watching something that involves medical things, a hospital, doctor, she'll say, oh, that's not right at all. That's silly. You don't do that. And so I guess I understand what she experiences whenever I'm watching things involving guns. That's why John Wick was cool. John Wick had some realistic gunplay, kind of. Let's see here. 1984 says, you need to sell your saddles, but still deciding, maybe next year. Do you not get to do any riding anymore out where you are at? There's some pretty country out there. Very pretty country. Yeah. Well, so Rich said, you think whether it's realistic or not, it's coming out at a good time. Yeah. And it's coming out election year. So they're doing it on purpose. Obviously, the timing is not a coincidence. I don't know. And maybe I'll try to have some good faith. Maybe they're going to try to like use it as a movie to calm everybody down. maybe there's a way to make that movie to where it's not inflammatory and doesn't stoke the flames. Maybe it kind of gets everybody to think, well, maybe a civil war would be really, really bad, which it would be. It would be really, really bad. No serious, intelligent person actually wants that. And here's the thing. The honest truth is, the best way to prevent a civil war is to allow the citizen defense industry to flourish. The more that you try to put a thumb down on individuals protecting their homes, protecting their communities, protecting their families, the more you're asking for that. Because if you want something crazy to happen, take away people's rights and then allow, I don't know, illegal aliens coming in and wreaking havoc in society and then not doing anything about it. That's how you create a lot of problems. Just let people take care of their homes, let them take care of their families, and use it as deterrent. Just back in World War II, the reason the Japanese wouldn't even consider invading America. They knew that every single farmer, rancher had a gun, and they were going to use it. It'll be interesting to see, Rich. Trent says, Mark, I think you enjoy memes about movie logic with guns. Yeah, I do. It's funny. You'll always see like an EOTech mounted backwards. It's always so funny. Even like some high, like expensive Hollywood movies. You'll see them do some really like silly things with the way they have things mounted and everything. And honestly, it's no surprise that, and I hate to say it, but the incident at Rust, the movie Rust with Alec Baldwin, I mean, Hollywood people, they are not responsible with guns. It's amazing to me. I would trust some random person at the local grocery store in Oklahoma to be more careful with guns than a lot of these Hollywood people are. It's crazy. Yep. Okay, so you're gonna be done with the cows, huh? 1984. You're gonna be done with it all. You need to come over to Blue, Oklahoma. We need another member. All right. Well, I sure appreciate each and every one of you. It's been a great time. I'm glad to get back on this Monday. And like I said, whenever you get ready to tune in, be sure to bring your questions, bring your thoughts, anything that you have beforehand. You can always email them to me if you don't want to forget about them. But I certainly want to respond to your questions, your comments. I enjoy getting to talk with you. I'll have more things to discuss, more things to talk about tomorrow. As always, Davey. I don't know where Davey is today, but I'll get back to his question, kind of a building upon the question that we had concerning eschatology last week. And I will keep doing that. Thank you all so much. And like I said, I'm working on getting that website updated. Just be patient with me. There's a lot of things that I plan on getting updated, and we will have all sorts of exciting things coming your way. Now, with all that, appreciate each and every one of you. Go to markbazeministries.org to look at all of my materials, sermons, fill in the blank. And with that, got to get the dramatic music going. Here we go. This has been Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I am Pastor Mark Baze. Thank you all so very much. Have a great rest of your Monday. We'll be back here Tuesday with a whole lot more. We're not going anywhere. So stay tuned. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.